Okay.
It appears so.
All right, I guess we'll call the meeting to order. In the absence of you, Bishop, myself, and Mr. Bernstein are present. So let's start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With your light. All right, minutes.
That's in the way.
Who we got?
Who's there?
Who's there?
I don't think they meant to speak.
Oh.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of August 13th, 2024, minutes of the Water and Sewer Commission meeting.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
I as well.
Great job again.
Passes. Thank you, Brooke. All right, so looks like MLB Land Development will not be joining us this evening.
Is that true?
I haven't heard from them.
We'll jump over them and jump right into it. Right?
Sure.
Take it away.
I'll touch on a few things for the small amount of time that I've been here. John can fill in the gaps. So he spent more time than I have. I'm gonna jump over to water main failures. I'm not sure if anybody here got the notices. We tried to target just some specific areas that were affected by it. But I know at the last meeting, we had mentioned that crews were out a couple weeks prior doing some repairs. The day after our meeting, we had a failure of all places on East Hodges Street. We literally just got done putting some paint down over there, and another section let go, so replacing it can't go any quicker. So that was on 8/14. That one took a little while. It was a good length of pipe that had let go, and we were there pretty late into the night to get that repaired. Then 2 days later on Clapp Street, we had another significant failure over there. That one actually shook the town up pretty good, and we were out cleaning up for quite a while after that. Chasing some random air pockets that's made its way to a higher
Could you
section.
tell me what that is?
I was just gonna ask where Clap Street is.
You know where Norton Funeral Home is? Off of Taunton Avenue.
Is 123.
Mhm.
This is 140 here. We got Barrow Street here, which everybody's pretty much familiar with.
Yeah.
Clapp Street is this little loop that goes here.
Okay.
The Norton Memorial Funeral Home
Yeah.
is on that loop there. So unfortunately, that is another section of some pretty old pipe. It's got multiple different sizes and materials there. The section that actually let go was a small section of AC pipe that had failed. We did some flushing in the area afterwards, and like I said, it took a while to clean up, but eventually, with multiple pets out there, we were able to get it clear just before a couple of fire pumps came scheduled and shook up other areas of town again. So it's a never-ending battle, unfortunately. Once you have something like that, it takes a long time for the system to relax. So jump right into fire pump testing. We can confirm we have 5 fire pump tests scheduled in the next 2 to 3 weeks already. And we're working on 2 or 3 more. So everybody tries to get their suppression testing done in the fall. These are required tests by law.
Yeah.
They're well aware that they don't like asking us to do it. We don't like performing during our peak demand, which is the summer months. So when we start getting into September, October, they really try and push to get it done before the weather gets too cold to create issues on the other side. So we work with them. We do have techs out with every approved flushing sequence that we do. They're not only there to monitor the water flows that go through and record them, but obviously to make sure the water quality when the testing is done is appropriate. They will flush that area if necessary. The problem with these tests, just like unfortunately with a water pipe failure, is it can create disturbances in other areas of town. So if any resident notices something that's out of the ordinary, definitely call the office. Let us know where it is, even if you leave a message. We can investigate and address that area if there's something that was disturbed 2, 3 streets or 4 or 5 streets over. We're not aware of it if we're right at that initial location where it's clean. So, residents letting us know is our best course for that. I'll jump right into seasonal flushing. We started the fall flushing program at night, September 2nd. The crews were out. The first 2 nights, we actually had multiple staff members out working in different groups to perform the start of the flushing program using our booster pumps. So we were using the pumps at Cottage Street to push water across town through the bigger main, the 16-inch, and through the 12, moving heavy volumes of water in basically the reverse flow from what's normal flow for that area, scouring the pipes as best as possible. They were able to make it from Cottage Street to the water treatment facility in those 2 nights. So now the main trunk line being cleaned from the primary source to the storage, gives us huge benefits for what we can do working off of those trunk lines to the side roads. So crews are going to remain flushing at night just because it works best for everybody involved. For the most part, knock on wood, there's lower impacts to the residents and to the customers because you're out during the later hours of the night when most people are sleeping.
Makes sense.
Most businesses are closed. Plus the traffic is less than half. I mean, Steve knows the problem with the traffic in town. Try dealing with that and putting, thousands of gallons of water in the road.
Right.
When it's a nice sunny day, people don't expect that. So we have to be very cautious about where we put the water, and where the water can actually go. So that brings us to one of the questions that we actually had, besides just why do we flush at night, is how come the hydrant in front of my house has never been flushed? More than likely, it's because there's no drainage in the area. We don't do every hydrant in town. We typically alternate what hydrants we do each time we flush to make sure that they're all maintained and operational. But more often than not, we already know the area, we know the problem areas, and we know which drains work and which drains don't. And for the majority of town, we don't have drains that can take the volume of water that we want to put down. Far more than you would see in a regular thunderstorm or something like that.
Right.
So there's even a few streets that we actually skip. And with the unilateral flushing program that we do, which is isolating the gate valves, we can go for longer periods of time at a higher volume of water and skip those 2 or 3 hydrants or skip that street and pull it to the end where we know the water is able to go without creating any problems.
Yeah.
So not that, we purposely want to skip certain areas, but sometimes we're forced.
And what are you missing in that? You're only missing from however the height to the.
You're just not cleaning the lateral. Yeah, and typically what we do is if at the end of the flushing program, sometimes if we have a warm, spell before winter, we'll go out and we'll burp each one of those laterals.
Right.
Grease every one of those hydrants, paint them, put flags on them. We do the full maintenance on it. So even though it may not be fully flushed, we make sure that the hydrants are operational. And the biggest part before winter is make sure that they drain. So we've had a few hydrants that over time, if they were flushed and it wasn't noticed and there's some debris that gets stuck in the valve, those hydrants will fill up.
You're talking about the space that drains back down so it doesn't freeze.
So now that hydrant can freeze in the winter time. So we go out, we have a list of those as well before winter. And, the more time you spend with the hydrant, the longer that list gets. You do some repairs and you can narrow down the list and get them off. So there's always work to be done with the system, and you always find more when you do the flushing programs. So, but, our biggest question that we seem to get asked is how come that hydrant in front of my house isn't flushed? And more than likely there's a good reason for it. If it was out of service, it would be bagged or be tagged.
Right.
So, make sure people are well aware of that. We'll jump over to demand letters. I believe it was at the previous meeting that we had mentioned that notices were being sent out for any resident with an outstanding water or sewer bill, basically reminding them of the deadline to make those bills current. As of today, we still have 611 accounts that remain delinquent for FY24 compared to the 1,098 that actually received the letters in mid-August. So not a bad turnaround. Residents still have until this Friday, I believe it is. That we said this Friday. They can make payments here in person till 3:30, or they can go online and still make their payments till 11:59 on Friday, 9/13. If it rolls into September 14th, they will endure a $15 demand fee. So definitely something, it's sending the letters out. It's definitely more work for the office to send it out, but obviously a simple reminder goes a long way to a lot of people, and, you know, I know,
Well,
the
then,
bright colored notices are what everybody who we've talked to seems to really, thank us for, you know, not so much that we're making them pay the bill, but that it prompted their attention, so definitely is a good idea to put that out there. Do you have stuff? I know.
And our office
stuff,
staff
yeah.
does an excellent job getting those out. It's a
Yes,
lot of
yes,
work,
they do.
so we appreciate that.
A lot of paper cuts.
Yes. I don't think so.
Cover.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Pretty good for not being here.
I have a couple of questions.
What do you got?
We seem to be in the middle of a drought. How's that affecting our youth?
It has not affected us as of yet. I will say that.
In the long term, it doesn't look good for rainfall for the next couple of weeks. I don't know.
Are we currently technically in a drought level?
It's not classified by DEP as anything concerning yet. If it goes and this week stays as warm as it's projected to, depending on when their recommendations come out and stuff, we could see something come up, you know, minor or moderate, but I don't think there's gonna be anything drastic like we had seen
So
a couple of years
if
ago.
you recall, in January, you had said, to my amazement, that it was predicted to be a drought this year. Whoever we used to make those predictions, we're not paying them enough money.
Well,
So it's pretty amazing that, I mean, we just came off the rainiest year ever to come up with the fact that we were gonna have a drought this year.
still got a ways to go.
Amazing.
The deficit is surprising to see how quickly it's gone from surplus to, you know, to the other way.
I
And
imagine we monitored the wells, and they're all fine, right?
they are,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we prefer actually if the groundwater levels would continue to decline.
Right now, we've got fine.
Typically, it'll provide us with more filtration from the upper layers and usually indicates better water quality. So it's perfectly fine with us if it goes down a little bit more. You know, we definitely don't want to go back into full drought status like we dealt with 2 years ago, because that creates a whole nother realm of issues. But as of right now, we're in good shape.
So, the water main break on Clap Street, is, you said it's really bad water main. Is that somewhere on our schedule to replace?
Believe it or not, it has not been, because it has not been a problem for as long as I can remember. So we had issues with water flow down there, but never pipe failure. There was some concern when there was a Wheaton property that was down there, old house that ended up selling. There was some talk that it may have ended up turning into some more dorms or something like that. And we were hoping that then we could look at doing a water main improvement, because it would be required. They ended up putting the solar farm in there, so there was no need to upgrade any of the water that's down there. The problem with that street is the multiple types of pipe that are in the ground and the various sizes. So, Clap Street at 140 and Barrows intersection, where if you come out to Barrows and you look straight across, is AC pipe. As it goes down, there's an old hydrant on the right-hand side that we had actually replaced. With the lack of records that we have, we're just going based on a few rock wall pictures and stuff. It transitions down to a 2-inch pipe, cast iron. So we know that there isn't much going through that pipe. And then as it rounds the corner and goes back out past the funeral home, transitions back to cast iron pipe, then to AC pipe again, and then ties into the new main that was installed at the other side of Clap Street, coming into 140. So it's definitely in need of replacement, but it hasn't been problematic until just recently. So it will be added to the list.
Does Clap Street have sewer?
No.
So on the project, I know we're working on a number of things. What's next? Is that something that we decide?
As far as
You
which
decide?
street is next?
Yeah, what section of pipe are we gonna talk to next? And if we need to, again, I don't know what the pecking order, whether or not it's changed at all, or whether or not we should be forward thinking. And, you know, my goal was to get rid of every drop of this AC pipe in the town.
So with the last rate study that we had, it was recommended that we could spend up to or approaching $2 million on improvements per year. This was prior to COVID, prior to all the rate increases, prior to the supply and demand issues and everything being double what the price was back then. So we have a book that we worked with the engineers and came up with, and we called it the Water System Master Plan. We identified multiple streets, got the lengths, sizes and everything, and determined which ones, based on basically previous break history, problems, complaints, should be listed as certain streets to get done first. We've slowly clicked off a few of those as we moved into COVID, and we had some estimates. We quickly put a stop to it because now what was going to be a $1.5 million project was going to be closer to $4 million.
Yeah.
You know, we decided we were going to wait. So, the current rate study is still in progress. There's been a lot of delays with that, so we don't have any actual numbers to know exactly where we are now. All we know is what the cost per foot has gone up to for new materials and construction and everything. So pending the outcome for the Elm Street project, as the water main is going to be burdened by the ratepayers, that's going to exceed the $2 million. So any money that we may have saved by not building the previous year, more than likely is going to come into that. I don't remember what the estimated number was. I'm thinking it was 2.4 or 2.5 for the water. So add that to our current borrowings, you know, and that basically puts us on the hook for 1 year's time. We definitely want to look at some of the smaller streets. We've talked with Tara about a few different other streets we had looked at. And if this is going to be the new normal for the industry as far as what the pricing goes, we're going to have to redo that map and come up with new cost analysis. So we have something when we go to the capital committee and we say, hey, look, this is the road we want to do. It's 4,500 linear square feet, whatever. It's going to be this. Do you support it? Do you not support it? What's the rate going to be on borrowing that, adding that to what we currently have now? So there's a lot of logistics that go into it. Not just picking, well, we got to do this street. Because
not just that, but you also have to factor in tank mixers and tank replacements into that stuff too. It's not just
all the
main
capital
replacements.
the annual improvements.
I understand that, but it seems like that we should decide what to do and then start the process, because as we all know, it takes so long. I mean, even if we started something today, we're not gonna get to it.
Right.
But again, every time you talk about water main break, the section on East Hodges Street we're replacing, is that correct?
Correct.
But the one in the Clap Street we're not, and you alluded to the fact that Clap Street is just a mongrel.
It is.
The 2-inch water main feeding a hydrant is.
Well, it's sandwiched between two larger feeds, so it's not, the feeds where the hydrants connect are larger, but to have that as, maybe it was put in as a loop back in the day, and that was a solution, you know, to getting a farm some water or something like that, that there had to be some thought that went into it. To take the time to excavate and put in something that small doesn't make a lot of sense. So more than likely.
Are there any other areas in town that are other clap streets, other ones that are?
There are some
People with their
similar problems with
similar issues?
Union Road, right up here.
Okay.
So that goes, it starts off as a 6-inch, drops down to either a 4 or a 2. We don't have very good records on it again because of the age of it.
Yeah.
But indicated by the water flow that we get out of the last hydrant, we know that there's a significant change somewhere in along that ways.
So is it just years past the little thing breaking and fix that, and something breaks here, fix that, and
Typically,
no records of it, and all of a sudden you got
yeah, or if there was an extension, somebody built a house and, you know, back in the good old days when everybody, it was a handshake,
Yeah.
you know, they'd come in with the backhoe, they'd extend a water main or a water service, you know, 100 feet, so that now that property has water. Well, there were no rules and regulations back in that time, so it was whatever size you had, you put
Yeah,
in.
we have plenty of those.
it's
So,
common road, right?
unfortunately, yeah.
There's lines like
Yeah,
that.
multiple houses, all for one feed, you know, all of that stuff really wasn't a big deal back then. Until now, when it is. So there's a lot of things that could be upgraded. But again, we just gotta prioritize where the money gets spent. Obviously, as John had mentioned, the aerators to help with the TTHM issue.
Yep.
We're gonna be looking at major changes that are gonna be required coming up for PFAS at all of our wells.
That's a good point,
That's a
actually.
huge
It's
number.
Place of a lot of that actual,
Yeah.
the environmental stuff is gonna have to take center stage,
Right.
unfortunately.
And except for when it's a problem pipe, AC, if it's
Mhm.
okay, it's okay.
Right.
But like East Hodges Street kept getting worse and worse, and then it gets weaker, and like Young Ave
Mhm.
is something we've talked about moving up.
Yeah, we
which
call
gotta
it paper
break.
pipe on purpose.
Yeah.
Uh,
So the biggest limit, I think, is gonna be how the PFAS era is funded. If there are grants available,
Yeah.
if there are low interest loans better than what we can get now, that's gonna offset, a lot of the concern that we have as far as the spending or dwindling down our retained earnings too low. As far as still being able to do other projects, and I would have to assume, I know there's some litigation out there that we're a part of. I don't anticipate seeing much money come in from that. It's just something we had to join. We'd be foolish if we didn't. But hopefully the government steps in and helps out communities, towns, cities that have to deal with this problem. That's not even something that we generated.
It probably will, because it's something they generated. They wanted to happen, so.
So I have two other questions. On our store, I know in Randolph, we used to inspect out standpipes to make, and, inspect the amount of sediment that are in the storage pipe.
Mhm.
Is that been done?
Constantly. We have a set schedule that we work with.
And is there sediment in the storage?
It has drastically improved since the treatment facility went online, which has saved us thousands of dollars every time we have the tanks cleaned. Because before, the company that we'd use, we use physical divers that go in, we don't
Right.
use ROVs. And you would pay a base rate just to get them out for the day or whatever it was, and then you'd pay extra per inch. And we used to take feet out of the elevated tanks at
Wow.
any given time. And
How long was it that would accumulate?
within a year and a half, the ground storage tanks, we get a little bit more sediment in because sometimes we use them after, unfortunately, a pipe failure. To have a place to discharge the water, that we're not wasting the water. So there's only so much flushing you can do before you're gonna run out of water, so you have to, be wise-minded. And put it somewhere where it's gonna actually act as a settling basin, so if we can put it to a ground storage facility, let that settle out for a week or so. Any of the, debris, whatever you wanna call it, minerals, is gonna settle to the bottom of that tank.
Right.
It's not gonna be disturbed when you use that tank again. So, we've used that to our benefits when possible, instead of wasting all of the water. So, but you pay for it. I mean, if next time you have the tank cleaning come in, you're gonna pay to remove it, so.
So they basically just dive down with like a big vacuum hose or whatever and.
Yep.
Suck it all up.
They do structural analysis inside and external, and they give us printed reports and stuff, so.
I was down at Cape Cod Canal today, and they were painting the water tank
Nice.
next to the canal. I don't know how high it is, but probably a couple 100 feet high. With a man lift up. I'm telling you, it was a great job to have, not my job, but,
Great view.
I'm telling you, it's pretty unbelievable. I should take a couple pictures. On hydrant, we talked about some time back ago that private hydrants, we were gonna charge a fee. Is that part of the rate study?
It will be added in as additional revenue, we can.
And on private, let's take Red Mill Village for,
Mhm.
that's another good example. We have probably 25 hydrants. Are those periodically open to flush?
Those are flushed. All private hydrants, when accessible, are actually utilized during our flushing program.
So if they need maintenance,
Mhm.
is that done by you guys?
No.
If it needs maintenance, would you notify the
Yes,
private?
100%.
Private
Yep.
thing?
Yep.
All right. We have a list of, a map of, for instance, of hydrants and a listing. I'm gonna forward to you, just so you can put it on file.
Sure.
All right, just to make sure we're on the same page regarding that. I'm just curious. That's all I have at the moment.
Yeah, we've run into that numerous times where we've flushed a hydrant, or we went to flush a hydrant, we couldn't get a cap off, we couldn't get it to open, or it was leaking by. We will bag it, we will notify the fire department if it's necessary to take it out of service, and then notify somebody, if we have somebody here that is up to date. So we've had a few instances where the people that we have on file no longer
Sure.
are the management company, so that does happen. But with other resources in town going through the fire department or the tax collectors, typically we've always been able to find somebody and notify them. More than likely, it takes longer for them to do the repair than it would us. But, according to what we've been told in the past, we're not allowed to dig
I
or
mean, we
operate
could
on
hire-
private property.
I mean, we could hire somebody to do that. I'm not-
But for the most part, most of the hydrants operate great. They're not that old.
No, they're new relative.
Has fire hydrant technology changed over years, or is it more or less the same thing that's always been around?
They're very similar to what they originally were. The
They're not
improvements,
super complicated, right? I mean,
well, the improvements that have come out is with the coatings. So a lot of stuff is either powder coated or epoxy coated now, so it lasts a lot longer. And a few of the hydrant stuff that we implemented a requirement a few years back are to have stainless steel internal components, the stem, the nuts, and the external bolts. Because it seemed like most of our failure points, because of the groundwater fluctuation here in town, were actually from the seat rotting
Oh,
away.
okay. That's interesting.
And the seat and the stem being steel and up against brass, and then the hot water, you had some dissimilar metal corrosion.
Yep.
There were some hydrants that really weren't that old, but you couldn't take them apart anymore
Right,
because everything froze together down at the base. So unfortunately, those were pulled out, replaced with newer ones. The upper units were kept for spare parts, but that's a lot of money to throw away, just
yeah,
because.
they're not cheap, are they?
No. No, so our standard requirement is to have the stainless steel internal components and the external bolts. The bolts became an issue actually on some of the main roads because of the high salt content that the state puts down. So we've gone out and looked at, a few of the hydrants, and a lot of times you can't even get a wrench on the bolt. There's just nothing left to them.
Yeah,
So, not something you'd be comfortable flowing 1,500 gallons a minute out of nowhere.
Right.
Not much holding it together anymore. So we've made our own modifications to them by doing those, the stainless steel breakaway bolts and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But now it's a standard order item. It really helps us out.
Nice. Good to move on, or? All right. Let's see, anything? Good, move on?
Yeah.
Weston Sampson, who wants to go first? Sarah, you hear us?
I think she's playing along.
She's muted.
There you are.
I know.
There you go.
Hello, how's everybody doing tonight?
Sarah, good, how are you?
Doing great, thank you. All right, do a quick brief summary here. We have obviously the construction. Unfortunate that we had a little break over at East Hodges. I know the water department has already mentioned that. Frank talked about that. Our contractor put up the erosion control measures, and we're going to be starting actual construction next week. So that's all good news. I did also want to state that I think a little bit more comments on the master plan. I mean, we do reevaluate that list continuously with Frank, and the South Worcester Street and East Hodges Street was the big project that we opted to put up over the last year. But yeah, as mentioned, the storage tank replacement, also Cottage Street elevated storage tank replacement is going to be a big cost for the distribution system. And we also have the aeration projects that are currently appropriated for money. So there is a lot of money being spent. And then once we kind of get some of the critical infrastructure up, we're going to be moving back over to some of the water mains. But PFAS is kind of the big term right now. So that's another critical path too. So speaking about the aeration system, that went over to the permitting for Mass DEP. Once that's approved, we'll wrap up the design for that and get it out on the street for bidding. Our hope is that that'll be received kind of in the next few weeks, and hopefully in the next month or so, we'll be finalizing the plans and specs, getting them over to Frank and John, make sure everything looks good, and then going out to bid. So that's all positive news on that end. I know, I think I saw Ryan in the corner there, so I'm sure he'll talk about on the street, so I'll leave him to talk about that. We do have a draft contract that I want to just review with Frank and John before we send it over to everybody else on the call, but we talked about this a couple months back as far as putting together the PFAS alternatives analysis. And what we decided to do is also include additional work and water quality analysis at the treatment plant under that contract. And then we also talked about evaluating wells 1 and 2 as far as the infrastructure, potential permitting requirements, and cost constraints. And taking a look at that evaluation as far as whether or not we want to replace well 1, if we want to try to reactivate well 2, and or potential is also we looked into developing a well field across those parcels. So there is some limited space out there. There is some concerns with the zone 1 around 400-foot radius around the well. So potential well field might be another alternate. So we've included that all into one contract at this point. I know Ben Rollins was talking to Frank a little bit about unidirectional flushing, taking a look at that. I'm pretty sure we want to keep that as a separate contract, but as it does, include some of the THMs and water quality, that's another option to add into this contract. So we've got a draft. I'm going to send it over this week to Frank and John, and we'll probably set up a call just to discuss that and have that ready for the next meeting for commissioners to review. And so that's where we're at on that level. And then the other topic really kind of discuss is really, the well 4 replacement work. We're waiting for our driller to kind of continue working out there and getting that up and running, but that's obviously in the works as well. So I think, there's a lot of projects out there. The good news is that South Worcester Hodges is being funded by ARPA. The well 4 replacement is funded through the Auchincloss special grant funding, and we actually did move forward with that. A little bit further, we have a draft application in, and it sounds like EPA says it's looking good. So those are all good things that's happened in the last month or so. And I'll open up to questions, because I know I just kind of talked pretty fast for those.
Okay, that's all good stuff.
So, Tara, John and Frank, what about the copper lead inventory thing that we're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, Tara and I can't remember the other lady's name, Tara.
Stephanie Collins.
Yeah, so we've been working on that. I had our guys combing through our records, basically trying to, eliminate anything we have on paper saying it's not lead or lead service line. And thankfully there's a date, is it 1986, Tara, I believe, coming to mind. And if it's built before, after that, you can kind of safely at least estimate it as not being lead. So, anything we don't know, we can report it as unknown for now, but we're chipping away at it. So, yeah.
Is there a deadline of when they're supposed to submit this stuff?
Yeah, so the inventory, even with the unknowns, is due, I want to say, the middle or end of October.
October 16th.
Yeah, so, but I think it's either 5 or 10 years after that they want everything inventoried.
Confirmed.
Yeah, confirmed, so we'll get there.
Anybody figured out how to do that yet?
Well, yeah, figure it out. Yeah, you gotta dig. I mean, a lot of it, basically all new main replacements and stuff like that will help dwindle that number down. But it's really the if you have, you don't have to dig. If you have like paper or records that shows, that counts.
You gotta prove it somehow.
Yeah, but you need to prove it somehow. So we do have digging in our future, but hopefully not that much.
The digging combined with the main replacements in the
Mhm.
aging areas usually going to correlate with the same areas that would have the concerned
Exactly.
lead goosenecks and iron pipe services. So it's
Yeah.
kind of all going to go hand in hand.
No, I understand that. It's just that, I have to report it somehow and you have to.
Oh, it's a huge
I don't know.
process. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All countries do October 16th, right? Is that correct?
The initial one. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know how many people are working there to actually look at this data, but it should be pretty interesting to figure out what they're gonna do with it all.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
I agree.
So I met with, Jake Auchincloss.
Oh, that's you.
I didn't meet with him, he was not available, I met with his deputy person, but I thanked him, on our funding program. Encourage him to get us more money. But anyways, it was, you know, we spoke about that and his article about PFAS treatment that brought me to the meeting in the first place. What he's looking for is remember you talked about certain treatment processes to treat PFAS, and I guess I misinterpreted the article, but he's basically saying is he doesn't want to he wants to destroy it he doesn't want it to be necessarily use activated carbon to treat PFAS, but they want to basically destroy it.
Yeah, so it doesn't just get some
out
sort
of
of,
the environment completely and not caught in the activated carbon, which has to be then treated in order to. So that's what he was really encouraging us to look at. Just to let you know.
So he wants to destroy it in situ rather than
Right.
pull it out and destroy it.
Right, and I guess there's a way of doing that, but I don't really know if it's really implementable at this moment in time.
hey, if they're writing the checks, I'm all for it.
Well, it's just something to, to think about, because it's, again, if we follow his lead and we get funding from him, that'd be great. So, that was my meeting.
Did you go to that meeting expecting that it was gonna be with him?
No, I was told it wasn't gonna be with him after. He would have liked it, excuse. But that was the deputy person beforehand.
All right. Tara, are you all set?
Yep, unless, there's any more questions, I'm all set, thank you.
You need anything from us?
I don't think so yet, we'll be having pay estimates soon, probably next month, so.
All right, Brian, you're up.
Perfect. A few updates on the sewer projects we got going on, right in the sheet. Some of the other ones, Cobb Street Phase 2, the wet well improvements, the work is complete. The contractor has submitted their second pay estimate, which comes out to about $201,993.75. It doesn't include release of retainage, which I'm assuming will be on the next one. There is also a pending change order that they're going to put into the permanent bypass installation. They're still working out the numbers, so essentially that final payout will include that pending change order plus all the release of retainage. So I have this right here, the vote for authorization for Frank to execute.
So the work is essentially done,
Correct.
and everything is, I imagine, to our satisfaction.
Yes.
So I make a motion to approve payment estimate number 2 for the Cobb Street Pump Station Improvements Project, Phase 2, for $201,992.75 for Bizco Building Systems, Inc.
I will second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
I as well. Motion passes. Thank you.
And that's the signature, Frank, right?
Yes, correct.
Thank you for those copies. Whenever you're finished.
You'll get nothing.
Like it. I think Steve touched on the Holly Road NOLA generated at the last meeting. That project done. Final payment was approved at the last meeting. So that gets us into the Elm Street Sewer Project, Elm Street Sewer Extension and Water Main Improvements Project. We're currently on the fall town meeting around that article. We submitted 2 articles, so we only have one that's actually on the warrant. The first town meeting article is for the 48.6 for the water and sewer. And the second article, which is not on the warrant, is just for the $6 million, which includes the water, the pump station at the Reed Water property, and then the first million that we put into it. And that's, as we submitted both of them, they said that was something that could be entertained on the town meeting floor. It's not necessary. So we'll proceed forward with the $8.6 million article. And if it gets to it, we will.
The second would be the amendment, right? Or that's just different.
It's a secondary article to back it up. So, and they said it could be entertained at the town meeting floor. So we believe the town meeting is October 21st. don't know if that's been confirmed.
I believe that's what
It
it
is,
is,
yeah,
right.
perfect. Just a heads up, Steve is obviously going to be like that one. Steve
Yes, he is.
So,
You'll be here.
he likes the plain vacation.
That's smart man.
So with that, we are proceeding forward with the bidding of the project, in advance of the town meeting, so we can actually get actual bids in hand with contingencies versus what our estimate's going to be. The Central Register advertisement is going to appear tomorrow, so we're actually doing final tweaks on the plans and specs right now. We can get you guys physical copies by the end of the week.
Nice.
They'll be on its accent printing. We'll have it digitally, so. Steve Peterson had emailed about the Sun Chronicle Combines advertisement. I'm not sure if that was taken care of. Right?
I actually don't think I saw that. I saw about the Central Register, but I don't remember seeing anything about the Sun Chronicle and Combine, so I'll have to double check.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's no rush, but it's something that needs to get done.
Mhm.
At the end of the week. So, and with it being advertised tomorrow, with it appearing in the Central Register tomorrow, that leaves us with a 4-week bid period. Bid opening is going to be on October 8th, 2024, which is a Tuesday, and Steve actually planned it out so that it would be the same day as the October commission meeting, because that's
Oh,
the
okay.
second Tuesday
Yep.
in October, so it'll allow conversation at that meeting, as the bids come in and as we analyze them. So we're still doing public outreach, for the project. Paul Giuseppe from the working group that had met, on August 7th. I think Steve had talked about that at the last meeting. The biggest general consensus out of that meeting was the time requirements, and I kind of hanging up on that being, preventing the approval stuff, so.
The time requirements tie in.
The the requirement to tie in, and 7,
Yeah.
it's the requirement to tie in, it's the biggest thing that's hanging people up on the approval. We did put suggested language together for a revision, but we're not gonna approach that, at this time, so. There does need to be a follow-up meeting. I think Paul Giuseppe's kind of running with that group. He's coordinated everything last time. But that's probably something that needs to happen prior to the public meeting. So we can coordinate with Paul and figure out when that's gonna be.
When is the public meeting?
So, I had myself on that one. So the final public meeting that we're having, is on September 25th. So we had sent out flyers, similar to what we did for the first 2 public meetings. We sent out flyers to all the residents, just informing them that the final public meeting is gonna happen. At the second public meeting that we had in May, that's the one where we advised that we informed everybody that we'd taken ourselves off of the spring town meeting article, and that we were planning to submit for the fall town meeting article. And one of the requests was that we had another meeting prior to that fall town meeting article, so. It's scheduled, like I said, for September 25th.
Can you attend that, Steve?
Yeah, it's at 6:30 p.m. at the library, so that'll be a very big meeting. We need to strategize the approach for it. Probably send a lot more emails coordinating everything just to make sure, we have everybody there that's present. I assume it's gonna be similar to what we did from the last.
That's not a Zoom meeting, right?
It will be a Zoom meeting.
Oh, it will be?
Yeah, we're gonna try and have it as a Zoom meeting.
Oh, okay, if I can zoom in, I will, yeah. New Jersey.
So if it's gonna be at the library.
It will be at the library. Nope, it will be at the library and it will be via Zoom, so. But yeah, it's essentially our, last effort to try and answer as many questions prior to the town meeting so that, we're avoiding any discussions on the town meeting floor, which is inevitable, unfortunately, but, we'll try our best we're finalizing the presentation right now. We'll try and make it as informational as possible. Obviously, we need to get good attendance for it, so, I assume we can, hopefully get a lot of people.
Well, if the direct mail is to the residents, you'll get
Yeah,
the same, they'll show up.
yeah.
I think.
So don't we have, so before the town meeting, do we need to get the finance committee to approve this?
So, I guess there's we should have a finance committee meeting before town meeting, that is correct.
I mean, I don't care about the selectmen per se, right? We really need finance committee to approve that, right?
Typically, articles that are supported by either or both are, typically go a little smoother.
Right, so, I mean, the good news is several of the selectmen was at the last meeting, the meeting of the coordination meeting. But the issue about when to tie in needs to be a warrant article if they're gonna make changes. Since it's a town meeting, it's a town regulation.
You need to be its own article, yeah. It couldn't be a-
That is,
and a-
that is a warrant,
These articles.
right, okay,
Stop.
so,
I think we have to be, right? You can't like make some kind of goofy motion from the floor and bring something up like that isn't on the warrant,
I don't
right?
I don't think so. I
I think
think,
we can make a whole nother subject on a
Yeah.
warrant.
I don't think it works that way.
Probably out of order,
Yeah.
unless you make an amendment onto the money article, but that's
Yeah,
really
it's- I
mixing
don't think we're fine.
money to policy. I mean, I think the attorney general will go for that. I mean,
Yeah, the secondary article just
has to
is
be.
strictly related to the actual first article that we're presenting. The changing of the actual time
So-
requirement is something completely different. That's a bylaw too.
Right, right.
So you can't vote money with a promise that the bylaw is gonna change. That wouldn't work either, right? Okay, well, we've given it the best effort possible. There's not much more we can do. I mean, I've been, agonizing over this, but I agreed to the other day that you give it the old college try, so to speak. What else are you supposed to do?
That's all you have. I mean,
I think we've done everything right.
Right? I
I
agree.
mean, we're doing what we feel is
And it's really,
best.
I mean, if people can just project themselves into the future, that this project is so important to the town.
Yeah. It's.
I know Paul was gonna meet with the developer.
Mhm.
But still, I don't know if he met in August, but he was going to, because I met with him in a separate time.
Yeah. Yeah, he had mentioned, him and Mike Eunice had met with the developer.
The Reed Martin,
The
the
Reed
alleged
Martin,
developer?
Yeah, and I think her name's Ann Brensley, they had met with her, and they're gonna attend the public meeting on the 25th as well, so.
That'd be good. I mean, everybody wanted, like, signed contract that they're gonna do
Yeah.
that project.
I don't think they're gonna get, I don't think they're gonna get even a verbal. I don't think they're gonna get anything close to a guarantee or, notice of intent.
But Paul said there are more than one person interested. I don't know if that might be accurate, but, I mean, they're out of development.
Yeah.
Yeah. People who do this, environmental cleanup stuff, brownfields all the time, so I mean, there is, with the lower interest rates, maybe we would attract more interest. I would think. I will plan on being there for, any meetings you have scheduled.
Yeah, final public meetings on the 25th, that's all right.
I'll
Six
be there.
to 15. So,
I will bring my library card.
but yeah, there's still plenty of coordination that'll need to happen regarding all meetings prior to the town meeting article. So, you say finance committee meeting, select board meeting, financing work session potentially too. Steve had suggested maybe October 14th after the bid opening before the town meeting. So it's,
Yeah, to me, the most important meeting, based on my experience, getting approval of the finance committee.
so that financing work session will definitely, it's important. Definitely important to have, so we'll coordinate that.
I mean, town meeting is important, don't get me wrong, but if you don't have the support of the finance committee,
This is about money.
Yep. Exactly.
It would help to have the select board support too, I think, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Most definitely.
We've had a split in the past that hasn't gone our way. I remember what that one was for.
The bylaw for tying into sewer.
Okay, that was
that
it.
was before me.
That was
I don't-
finance approved, but the select board didn't.
Finance denied
Denied.
to recommend it, and the select board
Yeah.
recommended it.
It wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't mean to sound like a Debbie Downer, but I don't see us getting select board approval, a select board recommendation if, there's at least one, if not two, finance committee members on the working group. And if they're very gung ho about the tie-in requirement being changed, and they were not the most vocal opposition on the select board. So, I don't know.
As I said, we can only do it so much.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
really the leaders of this community that should be leading. Nothing much more we can do, we can only bring it to their, unfortunately, if it was up to us, we would vote the article and build it, but.
The finance committee members, as far as, they shouldn't really even take that into consideration, the tie-in time and all that, the requirement to tie in.
I don't need,
It's almost like the Mansfield Ave project where, they cited the, conservation issue.
Right.
It's not really up
It's
to
not
that.
the thing, right?
Yeah, there's different.
I'm not 100% sure what their purview is even considered. I don't know.
Well, it's unusual in this town that the finance committee approves every single warrant article. Whereas most towns, they only deal with financial warrant articles, having to do with money. And the other ones are then approved by other respective boards. That's normally how it's done in other communities that I've been experienced with. So, it's kind of like, but again, that's what the policy is in the town hall. I think it changes, but again, when you're in a leadership position, you should be leading and looking at the betterment of the community, like we're looking at. Mhm. And, I always tell people, and it has nothing to do with this, we, us, water commission, have absolutely no skin in the game of this thing. We were just acting on the best behalf of the community. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, for all boards. All right, then.
So again, I think you're doing a great job. Again, we just have to try to convince people that it's the right thing to do. And the fact if we don't proceed with it, I'm not so sure how we're gonna fund anything moving forward on any capital project. You kind of like turn down free money. You're probably at the bottom of the list for future grants.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
it's, the town meeting article at root rate, it's not approved or it's turned down at town meeting. The secondary article essentially it'll say, all right, this project is gonna go through, but there's gonna be a pump station, we're gonna put the water in, build the force main, you're not gonna be able to connect
Your
into
septic
it.
system fails.
Your septic system fails, you're gonna have to repair it, and that's that, so.
So that secondary article, we should make sure that it's written correctly, so that we can, and have it prepared so we can submit it to the town clerk ahead of the town meeting vote. It's fun to have the article in writing before you make the motion.
I know it has to be in writing. I don't know the exact procedure for when it has
Before
to
you
be.
make the motion, we have to have a copy of the motion that you're making.
You have to have it if you're making it from the floor.
Providing it to the moderator in the town meeting beforehand, so you're making it.
So you do it ahead of time.
You gotta have it ahead of time.
Yeah,
Because they have to make sure it's in the proper form.
yeah, and it's been vetted by them already. We
So
submitted.
we just have to have a paragraph so that either whoever is making it, we have to decide who's making it. He can't make it, but we would have to.
That has yet to still be determined. I know there was some discussion about it, if it looks like it's gonna go that way, as far as.
Are you talking about if both of them were to pass?
No. If
No.
if we then make an amendment on the floor,
Oh, okay.
If we had discussion that's negative, then we would have to decide how to proceed to make an amendment to actually just do the lesson project. But we would have to make that motion, but it would have to be already in writing, so we can
Yeah.
submit it to the town clerk.
So will we be amending the full 8.6
Right.
to the 6 million? It's not a totally separate article. It would be an
We're
amendment to the first article.
the only thing we can do.
Well, if it ends up going that route and that's what happens, at least we're taking advantage of the $3.5 million grants.
Correct.
And that's not gonna affect us adversely going forward on that end.
Yeah.
that's,
So that's important.
basically the backup plan.
Yeah.
That's
It,
it's not a preferred plan, but it gets the reviving property hopefully developed.
And it keeps us in good with people giving away money.
We'll get a water main in.
All it is,
Isn't that the water main?
unfortunately, is kick the bucket down the road. I know Board of Health was pretty, adamant that they would like to see the potential for a future connection to the town hall complex and obviously to the library. If at some point they know those systems are gonna wear out and fail, you know, they'd only be able to connect if that was a gravity sewer. The only other backup option that you'd have, which is gonna be, far more cost, would be that another pump station would need to be built at the town hall.
Yeah.
Pick up the library, pick up the town hall buildings, and that would be able to be tied into the force main, but now you'd have to link and sequence the pumps
Oh,
from
okay.
both stations, so
You
they
can't
both
have one
couldn't
run
run at the
without
same
the other.
time.
Okay.
They'd have to be, alternating pumps,
Hmm.
so far more expensive, far more involved. But if that's what the town is gonna choose to do, that'll be addressed in the future, and all that cost be borne by the town. So,
Yeah, the smartest thing for everybody would be the whole sewer thing, but I guess we'll see. People have their vote, I guess.
Hopefully at the final public meeting, we'll convey this information, and they'll understand it, so.
All right, that it?
That's all I got for
wow,
today.
Right,
quick.
thank you. Anybody got anything unanticipated?
I don't think so.
Okay. Other than I'm on the road the next couple weeks, so if you could do the bills in 2 weeks, Janice needs it.
Just, so let me know when.
Yep, I'll I don't know if it's that week or the week after, but anyway. All right then, if nobody has anything, I think we're done, right?
Mhm.
See?
Motion to adjourn.
I second that motion, all in favor? Aye. I as well, thank you, everybody.